Greetings. So today I wanted to share with the collective some questions and answers from the higher self portion of the session. I will actually share some of the session itself at a later date, sort of some details of what happened, but it was a session to do with Gwynedd and King Arthur and Merlin, specifically Merlin, and some details came through about Stonehenge and its original position. So what I've gathered from doing sessions recently, I had a session with a friend that I've shared a little bit of. I had a session myself and this session here with this new client. So 3 sessions that all related to King Arthur and Gwynedd and Merlin. So it was different incarnations of possibly the same soul, possibly different souls. I'm thinking that with Merlin, well, from what we gathered from this session, 2 incarnations were the same soul. And they were spaced out over thousands of years. 2 of the incarnations of Merlin were very close together, and they have been historically identified by somebody called Alan Wilkins. I'll put a link down below. So he's done a lot of research into sort of the true accurate history of the British Isles, and he's identified where King Arthur may have actually lived, and that there were actually, in fact, 2 of them, and they were within 100 years of one another. This is what I was told in my meditation, and during this session we've sort of gathered that there was another King Arthur and Merlin, which was thousands of years before. So everything was very different then. There were dragons and there were extrasensory abilities and things. So the earth was in a much higher vibrational frequency at that time. So it was very different, but there were 3 altogether. And I've had sessions with 3 separate clients that all thought they were King Arthur within that time frame of King Arthur and Gwynedd, and they were in separate locations. So the first was a friend of mine that I shared her session, and she was actually at the foot of Snowdonia, where there are 2 lakes and there is a castle, and she visited that location shortly afterwards, and she said, this is it, I'm there, this is where the session was, I'm in that place. When I went to the Snowdonia area and Cadair Idris area, I went to the Castle Dinas, and I knew that my session that I'd had, that was the location. And so I was really confused at the time. I was trying to figure it out. I was thinking, well, I know that my session related to this site. And I've since found documentation that actually links King Arthur to that site, and Merlin. It's part of the Welsh myth that I hadn't even heard before, but it was the fight, it was where a small child was brought forth called Merlin. They were going to sacrifice him to sort of enable the building to stand up, but he had the gift of prophecy, and he was able to connect him with the energies of the land and say that there was a dragon fighting in the land. I'll put that myth down below as well, because that's a really interesting little bit of history that connected my castle. But when I went there, I wasn't aware of this. I didn't know that that was connected. I just read it in a book recently. So it's so fascinating how all these little elements come together, and you begin to realize and piece it all together, and you get the whole picture. And then most recently, this new session that I had with a client, where he was giving much more detail about the life of Merlin, because Merlin originally was a light, and he was a druid, and he was of the light, and he helped with healing, and he was kind of generally the left-hand man to the king of the land, and the king would have been like a spiritual leader. So they would have been like, the name King Arthur would have related to the fact that he was a spiritual leader, rather than his name being Arthur. The term King Arthur would have meant spiritual leader on high, or something along those lines. So it was not a name as much as a title. So anyway, I'm just going to stop waffling now. Hopefully I've helped to explain a little bit of what this session might involve, and I hope you enjoy the questions and answers, because some interesting information came through and I thought it was worth sharing. Okay, goodbye.
We're going to ask now for the higher self to join us. So Danny wants to know how he originally met Merlin. Was this the first time that they had met in this lifetime, when he was Gwynedd?
No.
When did they first meet?
As druids.
So did they train together as druids?
Yes.
Were they both male?
Yes. Best of friends.
How long was your lifetime as the druid where you were friends with Merlin? Did you live as long as Merlin did?
Yes.
As the druid that you were, what was your position? Where were you?
Merlin's apprentice.
Was it true that Merlin had a son?
Yes.
Who was he married to?
Lady Garda, something like that.
And he had a child with her.
Yes.
Did they also have the ability to live for a very long time?
Yes.
And what happened to his marriage and his wife and child? Did he remain with them? He left them, he did. Why did he do that?
Because he didn't want the marriage in the first place.
Why did he enter into that marriage then if he didn't want the marriage?
Because he was forced to.
Okay, by whom?
Aurthur.
Why did Arthur do that? What was the purpose of it, do you feel?
To give Merlin status.
To give him
Status.
status, okay. As a magician, that wasn't status enough. He needed marriage.
That he needed.
But he didn't have any desire to be married.
No, he didn't want to be married, no.
Did he not need that companionship then?
Didn't come down this lifetime to have companionship.
Okay. So how many lives, Merlin?
15.
Were they all on Earth? Were they Earth lifetimes or were they galactic?
Some Earth, some galactic.
Was Stonehenge moved from Wales to its current location?
Yes.
Whereabouts in Wales was it?
Gwynedd did it?
Does that have Snowdonia in it as well? And Cad Idris, the mountain?
Yes, yes.
Whereabouts was it within that area? Because that's quite a big area. In a valley? Near any
In the
water?
valley.
In the valley? Is there any markers which mark where it used to be?
It was, but there isn't no more.
So energetically, is there still a ley line or anything going through the? So it goes through the previous location.
Yes.
So
That's why it was built on the ley line.
Was it a specific important location where it was originally built?
It was just built on the main points of the ley line where it was most powerful. Different ley lines are coming into it as well. Makes it like a point, focal point for the ley lines.
How many lines were meeting there?
4 or 5.
So it was quite a major intersection point.
Yes.
Okay. So why was it that they decided to move it?
Getting before the 1700s, it was moved. After the 1400s.
Why did they decide to move it?
Stop people from using it.
So people wouldn't know where the original site was?
Yes.
Because the energy there was quite powerful.
Yes.
Okay. And the place where it was positioned, which is now on the downland, why is it that that's got such negative energy there now?
That's because Merlin and the druids put the energy there.
Okay.
Turned the good energy into bad.
Right. Why did they do that then? After Merlin had been negative polarized then?
Yes. And the druids.
And the druids as well. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So what was the seed point of that happening then? Was that in Wales that happened?
Yes.
Was it
started in Wales.
Was it through AI?
No.
What was the seed point of that happening then? Can you go to that time and tell us what?
Yes, they let the dark shadows take over them.
Okay, so they allowed it to happen.
Yeah, their own shadows. Their own dark self.
Yeah, so they just allowed the darkness to take prominence over time.
In a way, they couldn't stop it either. It was as Earth was transitioning itself down, descending as well. So
going down from the 5D down into into the 3D we're in now.
Yes, sort of, yes.
So I was getting today that there's been this like activation coming through from, felt like sort of blue light energy coming through into somewhere in Wales. I'm wondering if it's the same location where Stonehenge used to be. Is that what's been coming down then today? Because I've seen it. Felt like it was around the Cad Idris area, and that is like the Gwynedd area.
Yes, the Gwynedd area is the old name.
Okay.
So obviously it's not called that now.
No, okay. So this energy was coming down into where the Stonehenge place used to be then. So it's this activation coming back into the ley lines.
Yes. Mother Earth ascending. Okay. Also the collective frequencies raising. And also it's time to start clearing the ley lines.
Felt like it was quite significant. Is that the reason that we had this session today? Because that was happening today. Is there a connection between those two things?
Yes. Daniel has the blue, white diamond light inside of Merlin. Wants Daniel to set things right. Land-wise, energy-wise, frequency-wise.
Okay. So all of the things that he may have done which were not beneficial, just to rectify that. Okay, that makes sense. Okay.
And also, he wants to experience through Daniel how to be loved and to love back, because that's when he came down here for the first time.
Merlin did.
Yes, in his Merlin life.
Okay, so he wasn't very successful with that then. If he kind of abandoned his wife and son,
He was successful, but then he wasn't.
So through his free will choice, he kind of just chose not to experience that any longer.
It's all about choices, yes.
Okay, that needs to be locked out before the summer solstice, before the wave of light can come through.
Yes.
Because I was seeing that wave of light coming through from the ocean on the summer solstice. I was seeing it coming from the south.
Water carries energy quicker.
Okay, that's what I was seeing. So how many Merlin incarnations were there? How many times was Merlin incarnated?
3.
As 3, it was 3. Were they sort of one after the other? So all of those, no, okay. Were they all identical?
No, they're not identical.
But they were just like wizards with the same name of Merlin, were they? Or druids?
Druids.
And they all had the same name, did they?
Yes.
So I saw myself as Morgana, I think, like the first wife of King Arthur. So do you feel that that's this within the same story that we were seeing here?
No, different story.
Okay.
Different King Arthur.
Different King Arthur, okay. So how many King Arthurs were there then? How many different stories of King Arthur?
I'm getting this 3.
3 as well. So 3 Merlins, and then there were 3 King Arthurs.
Yes.
It's almost like they had the same sort of women, but although we didn't get the names of the women, but it felt like Gwynedd and Morgana, but it could be sort
Each
of
King Arthur had different women.
Yeah, we would have had different ones. So we may have just made the assumption that it was those people, just because of the king himself. Why is it that we're also picking up this very negative energy with Merlin? Was it because he was like incredibly light on the one hand that he could then turn incredibly dark?
Yeah, we all have dark lives.
Yeah, we all have. Yeah.
We all have to go through dark lives.
Yeah.
Got to trust the dark to be able to know how to touch the light.
Yeah, because I saw Merlin as well. So it must have been a different one then. One of the other 3 incarnations of Merlin that I saw as well in a different past life. And how about 2025? Is there a significance to the point that we're going to reach by the end of this year?
Oh, I think 2024 is going to be powerful. 2025 is going to even be better.
Good. We need a better year.
2024 is the start.